All right. Hello, people. Hi, everybody. Let's give the people a little bit of a chance in here. Get on in here. So we'll start at exactly 5:30. So we're not so it'll be easier for me to keep time.
Okay.
Just a little something. Let me pull something up real quick. Hold on. Are you still able to see me and hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can see you. There's a lot happening up here. What's going on? What's all that? Is that the new stuff? Is this our new toy?
What?
I see I see George Floyd, I see you, I see me, then I see us on the screen. It's a lot
That's the
happening.
Facebook flyer behind us, girl.
Why is the oh.
That's our background. Because that's what we're talking about, and the title of the show shows at the bottom. Okay.
Oh, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's special. Okay.
You was so dense.
Clearly, I am not the technical one of the two. I'm just, I'm just here. I'm just here to talk. That's all I do.
This phone
Okay.
tripping. We're at 5:27. Why does time take so long? When
Because
you
you are
want it to go
impatient.
fast, when you want it to go slow, it don't go slow. When you want it to go fast, it's like, oh no, these little 3 minutes about to be longer than my whole day. How much you want to bet? I could bet you. Where is? I'm actually pulling up this file really quick. Alrighty. Just as my computer never takes this long to load either. It's like
Well,
I'm moving.
things are happening. I don't know why I can't get onto Facebook. Weird.
Okay. Whew. One more minute, guys. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us. And if you have anything you want to say, do not hesitate. That is what we're here for. We like to call it.
It's like, please.
Thank you for joining. Let me show your comments. Okay. Whew. Alrighty. So it is 6:29, and I think that we could be, we can start.
Okay.
Um, just with our introductions. It takes us about a minute to do that anyway. Oh, 6:30. Look at that. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the Sickle Cell Experience Live. We have a great topic for today. and I'm excited. But before we get into that, I am Shay Brianne Howard. I am the co-founder and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience Live. I'm also a writer. I'm a filmmaker, photographer, author, mother, and I'm also the daughter of a sickle cell patient as well. My mother passed away from complications, and that is who I am. Yes.
Hello, my name is Marissa Kors. I am the co-host and co-founder of the Sickle Cell Experience, fifth generation sickle cell patient, patient advocate, and author. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. So we have
Wait,
an
hold on. Is there a delay on your end?
no.
Yes, there is.
What?
Yeah. Okay, keep talking.
Okay. I'm like, what are you talking about? I guess it's a step up from last week. I'll say that. I could actually hear.
That's
Um. So yeah, let's get right on into it with whole discussion, and let's ask this question. Um, what should the verdict mean for sickle cell patients everywhere?
mm. What does the George Floyd verdict mean for sickle cell patients, or what should it mean?
Yeah.
So, do well, okay, I will start. I mean, I think the obvious connection here is that we have somebody who's in a government agency, basically. We have someone who's part of our police force, right? Who's basically licensed by our government to keep the peace, and as such has a certain amount of responsibility and accountability that goes along with that role. And what we've seen is a vast uh, abuse of power. And when we discuss sickle cell patients, we're looking at our medical system, which is also empowered by our government, with our doctors acting individually as part of a group that is given certain responsibilities and therefore should have accountability, um, to write orders for life saving care, and under which both parties are given a certain amount of, lack of a better word, leniency.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that leniency is their ability to act. And if they make a mistake,
Wait.
how
Before
are
you
they
continue,
held legally
Marissa,
accountable
before you
and what
continue,
happens?
is your speaker on
What
something?
happens
Because
to them?
okay, it I don't know. That was so weird.
Did I just go out?
Yeah, a little bit.
I
Yeah.
can't hear you.
Can you hear now? Can
Can you
you
hear
hear
me?
me? Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, can the audience hear me?
Those of you who are watching, can you do us a favor and let us know if you can hear Marissa?
I'm gonna leave and come back because no one can hear me. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Alrighty. So she will be right back. Hi Nida, hi Zola, hi Takara again. I'm just acknowledging you guys' comments, or you ladies' comments, before we continue. Um, we have a lot of great things to share with you today: videos and content, articles, and our opinion, and the things that we feel, and you know, all that great stuff. So don't worry. By the time we get it together, you guys will be very happy that you are here. Just waiting for Marissa to come back. I know it's not the easiest to navigate new technology, and this system is new to us. This is only like our second time using this. So bear with us. We'll have it together by next week. I feel like I could breathe. I've been moving so much that I'm like finally still. This is so sad that you gotta be happy to be still. But let's take a little bit of a poll while we're waiting. How many of you were surprised by yesterday's verdict? Just in the comments, just share with us.
Hello?
Alrighty, there you go. What happened?
Can you hear me? Am I talking?
Yes, you're talking.
Okay, I can hear you. Barely, but I can hear you. So all right, let's go.
Alrighty. I can hear you perfectly, so that's good.
Okay, cool. Um, where did I end? Because I just,
So you were talking about the topic at hand, and I believe you were going into number one, the focus, what we focusing on. Jesus Christ, can I get my words together? The influence that it could have for medical providers and accountability and abusive treatment of sickle cell.
oh, okay, okay. So yeah, so for the most part, yes, both groups are given a certain amount of leniency. And I say lack of a better word before everybody wants to jump in and be like, oh God, we have all this responsibility. We understand that concept. It's lack of a better word right now. In how they move. And the argument is that if you're an ER doctor, if you're a police officer, you have to make these split-second life-saving decisions, which we also, as a government and as a society, recognize are split-saving decisions that could end up in taking a life as well, in that you may have made the wrong decision, and you account for a certain amount of human error, I guess I could say. The problem with this is that you then get individuals, and then sometimes that develops into a culture within both groups, right? That
Mm-hmm.
allows for the pushing of the use of that power to go beyond what it should be. And what I mean by that is that you start to raise issues. There are issues of injustices that are raised within our police forces. We've seen in our police system over the last 30 years of my life that I can personally account to, right? In
Yes.
which our police have killed countless individuals. Some of it we have on video, and nothing happens to them. And it's like, what's going on? And then if we go over to our medical side, you know, you have medical malpractice, you have doctors not making good decisions. Um, and specifically in sickle cell, we are seeing just a culture of neglect, a culture of lack of care coming from our physicians. And there's not much that we can do about it because you have to be able to prove that this is sort of done in a menacing intent. So with the George Floyd, with the George Floyd verdict, what we're seeing is our government finally saying, okay, you went too far. Okay, you were wrong in how you have proceeded in carrying out your duty and your responsibility to the people that you're here to protect. And what I see happening is that if we're able to draw correlations between the two groups, and if the two groups, you know, are there supposedly to protect the public, right? And are empowered to make decisions that can result in taking a life, then if the government can look at one group and say, okay, this individual has gone too far and we need some sort of reform and accountability happening over here, then we as sickle cell patients, or I suppose you could make the argument for patients in general, but we're the sickle cell experience, so we don't talk about sickle cell patients. We can take said argument over here and say, okay, I have video, I have records of where my doctors made decisions that were not great ones. We have families who can say, my loved one is no longer here because the doctor, and then you can fill in the blank. Um, and now there's room, I'm going to say room, there's room for not just the medical industry as a whole to step back and say, how far is too far? Or to say, you know what, out loud, that doctor was definitely wrong in how they treated you. And I believe that that room is the room that we need as patients to be able to push forth and get accountability with for our care and the treatment of our illness as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes? I can't hear.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. Um, I totally agree with everything you just said. I think that so through everything that has happened and that is happening in history, I think it does have very interesting similarities in which, of course, they do because they were built on the same beliefs, on the same systems, on the same, a lot of everything, medical system, judicial system. So you can definitely see, you can compare the two and see where they are not very different, right? Especially when it comes to giving a person power, and when it comes time to holding that person accountable for that power. um I feel like there is a disconnect. I feel like they fall short. I feel like the things that has happened, they want to say, oh, but this person is needed. But let, you know, somebody who is held into a different standard in a different position, totally different, say, just the way that a person can view a performer or an actor, and they can make one mistake and they can literally be canceled. They can be blackballed. They can be shunned and disgraced, and this is not how we do things. And you can, now your money is messed up. Now you're paying the price for the things that you said or did, and it's not okay. Why
Mm-hmm.
why is that not the same everywhere else? Why is that not, that accountability not held to the people who hold lives in their hands? An actor is just a person playing a part on screen. A director is just someone who shows how the movie production is supposed to go, and produces the movie all the way through. But a person who is in charge, or equally in charge of someone's life, whether they live or die in that moment, they shouldn't be held to a standard to be canceled. They shouldn't be held in the standard that, you know what, heavy is the head that wears the crown, or badge, or stethoscope, or whatever you have, to say, wow, this is I have to really give this some thought before I do this. I can't just do this for the money. I have to do this with the right intention, for the right reasons. Because if I don't, that could be my life. That could be my livelihood. That could be my family's life. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't have that worry there. They say they do, but it's for something totally, always have their best interest in, in in the long run. But they're so protected, it really doesn't matter what their best interest is, because it's still, they're not going to be touched, really. Was I surprised about the verdict? Yes and no. Yes and no. I will say yes, because the justice system is not for us. It's not built to help those in a lower the money. So that was surprising, but because of the reaction of the world, not just the state, not just the United States, but the world, no, I wasn't surprised. I was, I still feel like the verdict is what it is. It's the verdict. But I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. He still had to be sentenced. That's a whole totally different topic. So I'm not even gonna get into that one right now. But I'm definitely I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I have a quote here that I feel like really struck a chord with me personally when I read the article. So this is a quote by Zach Cheney Rice. He says, "The verdict isn't justice, it's self-preservation." Mm.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna give your thoughts on that just a little bit, and then we'll move
Wait,
forward.
repeat that. The
The
just the quote.
verdict the verdict isn't justice, it's self-preservation.
Um, well, I mean, at the end of the day, it is, right? At the
Yeah.
end of the day, it is. I mean, people have been rioting for a year now. And in the midst of COVID, the world shutting down, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this was just the perfect storm for something to happen because the government is shut down. The world is shut down. So you can't leave your house. You can't leave your county, your city, your state, your country. You have nothing to do but focus. And you have nothing to focus on but what is being streamed into your home. So if that's what you're seeing in your home, on every news channel, and every time you pull up, your Facebook, your YouTube, your whatever, you see a picture of George Floyd, you know, then the energy and the efforts are concentrated there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have something horribly atrocious that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have it happening at a time where people are discontent, where people are suffering, where people are just all around frustrated, and they can't go nowhere. So,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, yeah, the police have guns and they have tanks and they have a whole system designed to help, that is supposed to help keep order. But if you compare the police population to the masses, it's going to come to a tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's what they mean by that, is that we're at a tipping point where the people, we the people, are have them on the end where they have to be defended.
Yeah.
And had they not found this man guilty, there would have been more than a few problems. That's number one. But see, number two is that this is only really a third of the battle, right? Because you found him guilty. That's great. But we have no idea what the punishment is. And that's the accountability healing part, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they have 2 months. Like, let's consider this. They have 2 months to get, his lawyers have 2 months to get their story together, to turn the powers that be, to make them say how much punishment is enough for this man. And we have already seen, history has shown us that somebody can be proven guilty and walk, be given community service, be put on house arrest, or say, well, this person put in 29 years on the force, they've lost their pension, they've left in disgrace, they were a third generation fireman, a third generation police officer, that's isn't that enough? And then from that point, you have legislation. So now what are they going to do to ensure that this thing, you know, doesn't happen again? Or rather, to ensure that it doesn't happen again, at the very least in this way. And that's the thing when it comes to us as patients and how we deal with our doctors. See, the thing with the George Floyd is that you had almost 9 minutes to make a better decision.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're not talking about somebody that had a split-second trigger finger. We're not talking about somebody had a weapon in their hand and they mistook that weapon for a different one, and oops, and now we can account for adrenaline rushing and this and that. No, 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 no. You had one person up against how many? Five people in uniform, 6 people that were actually there, with one person physically holding this man down and an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age, the audience wasn't just a small group of people that were gathered there, but it was the people gathered there. And if they were going live or if they were just recording, it doesn't matter. Either way, that audience then populated from that small group of people to the world. So you had 9 minutes, damn near, to make a better decision. And you can't in any way say, I didn't hear them, I wasn't aware, because you are actively speaking to people saying, I'm not doing anything different from what you're telling me. And I think that is the position where we as patients can put insert ourselves into that situation. Because how many times have we sat in an ER with a doctor with our caregivers, our parents, our children, our husbands, whatever, our advocates, and had a doctor sit and tell us, you know, uh, I'm not going to give you the pain medication that you're asking for. I don't believe that you're in the amount of pain that you're saying. Well, sickle cell isn't that kind of an illness. I mean, just excuse upon excuse upon excuse upon excuse, you know, and then leave. And then that patient just is declining, 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 declining. How
Mm-hmm.
many times have we had nurses? We're not, you need this? Yes. How many times have we had nurses, right, telling our doctors the patient needs X, Y, and Z, and they're not being listened to? And you're saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And now that patient just gets worse and worse, and in some instances passes away. You had ample time and opportunity to make a better decision, and you're not. That's the issue that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And I, as a patient, George Floyd, as the victim, has no power to make things better for himself. And that's the issue. We're having a
So
problem with the link for mobile devices, according to Dorian.
I'll fix it in just a second. I do want to make my point because it was lining up right with what I was going to say next, which is the people who. So I read an article about since um sorry, his name just completely blanked in my head. Not George Floyd. Derek, what's his name? The guy who,
Chauvin?
there we go, the cop who murdered George Floyd. The cops who were standing around letting it happen are now at risk for also being held accountable for their actions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then there goes to say, well, if and when, if it does happen, if they are held accountable, does this change how other police officers will police? Does this change how other police officers watch those who are not in line with their
Mm-hmm.
with what they're supposed to be doing versus how they want to act because they feel they have all the power, they have free reign, so they do what they want. um and the people that don't stop them because they know, hey, you got it, and I'm not gonna get in trouble for watching you do it. I'm not an accessory. um but now here we are where these people can be held accountable for being accessories. I think that
Mm-hmm.
um it directly correlates with being in the hospital, like you said, having a doctor tell a patient in front of their family, you know, or not, hey, I don't believe you. I'm not going to treat you. Watching that patient decline, watching that patient get sicker and die. But what about those nurses and those doctors that are watching this happen, that are watching him actively kill a patient but doing nothing?
Right.
Why are they not being held accountable just like in this situation here?
So the interesting thing when you bring that up is that one of those officers was still in training. And this is where I find the two very incredibly similar, is that you have someone in training who has not had time to fully be inundated by the systemic everything. Okay, the racism, the bias, the fraternal order, this is just how we have each other's back, the things that you quote unquote learn on job, like you haven't
Mm-hmm.
had time yet to be fully, brought in.
Right.
So I can tell you countless interns and trainees who come into my room and have heard doctors say things to me that they knew were just like off. They knew this doctor should not be doing that. And you see their whole face like, and then you see the battle in their head. Do I intervene? What can I do? What can I do? And I've even had a couple of those people come back and apologize to me and say, I don't have any power here to help you. And that's the thing. Those are our next generation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
called protectors, providers of care. And I hate to put it this way, but my hope is that this gives you more of a backbone. This gives you a little bit more, you know, allows you to give yourself a little bit more freedom to step up and say, why are you doing this? This isn't right. I don't understand. Instead of just accepting, you know, what's happening and going along with it. Because at the end of the day, there is a code of silence that both of these groups adopt in order to protect the individuals in the group as a group. That did make sense. I know it did.
It
So,
did too
we talk
fast.
about the blue wall of silence, but we
Right,
rarely talk about the white code of silence, right?
right. True that.
We rarely discuss how doctors will listen, will watch, will be in the room or in earshot of another doctor saying things like, well, I just don't give morphine. Well, I just don't give those kinds of medications. And know good and darn well that you just gave that medication to the patient next door. Know good and darn well that the soccer mom that just came in with a sprained wrist, you just gave 30 pills of oxy to.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have somebody here with sickle cell and you are telling them, A, you don't believe them, but they got medical history. And then B, you're acknowledging the sickle cell causes pain, but you're saying, I don't know that the pain is really, that bad. So you're putting all of the responsibility onto the patient to convince you. Just like the responsibility apparently was on to George Floyd to say, you're killing me. So because what? He didn't say you're killing me loud enough. Dude didn't have to listen,
Just like
you
tried to
know.
say that he didn't die from a knee to the neck. He died from all his
His lungs
secondary
not expanding.
issues, and he died from drug use. What are
Exactly.
you saying?
Right. But it's like your intervention could have saved that.
Yeah.
And that's the issue here is that it's bravado, it's ego, it's training, and it's empowerment and backing. And I'm keep saying this, y'all will get tired of hearing it, but it is backing by the most powerful government on the planet to say, yo, whatever decision you make, for the most part, you're good. We got you.
Mm-hmm.
In conjunction with bias, racism, lack of education, and profiling, all of which we as patients must contend with when we go into an ER with broken bodies and exhausted minds. Can we get, or so are they, can they come on now? Because I would like to hear
Um,
other people's opinion on the subject. And I would also like to review, I think we have a clip of
yes,
the
we have
judge's
clips.
instructions to the jury.
We have clips. You want to show the clips for right now, and then try to
Yeah,
help.
let's show the clips while we can get people to come in. The first, well,
I have
so you have the clips lined up. I can't even introduce that. Well, I'm not trying.
yeah. Let me. Oh, there's Dorian. Okay, hold on. right? 4 hours.
Look, Dorian, hi. Oh, I like our toy. I'm so excited.
You did it. You made it.
Yeah, the Safari thing worked when I copied and pasted when I copied and pasted it into the Safari thing. It worked. So
You're welcome.
got me on.
I'm
Yes, thank you for showing me on.
All right. So you feel free to hop in. I mean, we were going to look at some clips really quick, but we want to hear what you think before we go to the clips. Um, as far as we said a lot, so I think I should be more specific. Huh? As far as like how the George Floyd verdict can what it can mean or should mean for sickle cell patients, and we'll just start there because I got so much in my head.
Um, well, I think the energy and the timing is ripe for us to capitalize would be the wrong word, um, but to utilize the energy around what is taking place in this country, around the systemic abuses that Black people have historically faced at the hands of police. Um, I think that the timing is right for us to draw a through line, and connect with the abuses that not only take place at the hands of the police, people who are supposed to protect and serve us, but how those systemic issues also carry into healthcare, and how our medical providers have how there is a history of neglect and abuse at the hands of these other people who, instead of carrying badges, wear white coats, um,
Uh-oh.
and have you know historically um, imposed a level of neglect upon sickle cell patients that I don't think you see with many other illnesses, or with any other illness that I can see. Um, and I think that's because of the nature of this of the disease and who it impacts. But if we don't take the time to organize and truly utilize the energy around what's happening to actually make the changes that need to happen, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. Um, because right now, currently, while the focus is, all, on the fact that we've, finally convicted one of these officers, we still need to see what happens in sentencing and whether there's actually going to be justice, a true justice that's, done in terms of his sentencing, and not just a slap on the wrist.
Right.
Um, but if we don't actually take the time to actually organize and tell the public that these miscarriages and abuses actually carry over into, healthcare, then, you know, it's all for naught. And there's really no, not no connection that we can really draw to the George Floyd incident, because the world won't know, essentially.
Right. Um, I mean, yeah, that was pretty much what we were saying. So, I mean, I think that we're all in agreement here about this. And also, like, you know, so there's something about putting the responsibility on the person who is murdered versus the person who has done the murdering when it comes to, police or even medical manslaughter in the medical industry. I think that it seems as though it's like a well, what did you do? What are you doing to help prevent this? What are you doing to help stop this? Or and it's like, why does it always have to be on us? And it's unfortunate that it is. It's unfortunate that we have to have conversations about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, when being pulled over, even when going to the hospital. We have been trained on how to act. So before we get into that conversation, I just wanted to kind of bring that into the forefront. So that's going to be our next segue once we get back. We're going to look at a couple clips and then we will talk about it. So just kind of keep it on the forefront of your head while I share my screen. Let me see. Oh, I'm so blind. I'm so blind.
Don't confess that.
Okay, I'm not. I'm just challenged by vision.
All right.
Touch it. All right.
Oh,
Yeah. You guys can see this?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why it's not scrolling. Okay, there we go. Take me to your master. This video, right, with the judge? This link?
I hope
I'm
so.
gonna double check before I play.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I hope so.
Watch
If not, we will
Washington
explain what
Post.
it
That's
is.
what I was trying to make sure. Okay.
'Cause I can't read it.
It's loading. Give it a chance. It's okay. It's just loading.
New apps, people. We're trying new things over here. Bear with us. But while it's loading,
Wow.
I just wanted to
Really?
say I think it's really I believe that it's really sad that we have to make a correlation between a man dying in the streets at the hands of somebody who's there to protect, serve, and ultimately hold themselves to a higher standard if they're going to have that responsibility. That we're here having to correlate that with our medical industry and with the people that we are forced to,
Speak on it.
give our lives to.
Okay, so this is what pulled up. Do you want to talk about this or do you want me to just go back to another one? Do you guys see? Y'all don't see what pulled up, right?
We've only been
No.
seeing words.
I just, yeah,
It's
I just see a
Maybe
link.
maybe the links. I think that's all we're looking at.
All right, so let's do this again. This, because I shared directly to that tab, so maybe I just have to share my entire, because it took me to a different tab. So yeah, let's just just share the entire screen.
Technology, isn't it supposed to make life easier?
Not
Once
really.
you get past the learning curve, I suppose.
Okay. Oh wait, I think someone's let the person in before we go back. Yikes. Is that me? Oh, that's me. Okay, never mind. I thought, never mind. It's okay. The last thing that I clicked, a link. It was like the judge's instructions to the jurors. Is that something you guys want to discuss, or should I move along?
No, we need to discuss
No, we
it.
need to
So
discuss
if it
it.
has to be
So
something
if
we have
it
to
has to
read,
be
but there's
something
a
we have
link
to read, but there's a link
No,
of the
I'm not
video,
saying
of the
maybe.
video, so he can.
Is anybody else hearing feedback? Is anybody else hearing feedback?
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes. Major feedback. Major feedback.
Is anyone out in the audience hearing feedback?
Or the echo?
Because I don't hear
or
any.
the echo.
Okay, let me see. Does anyone hear an echo? Who's watching?
From me and Marissa.
Nida says she hears
Did you
an
say
echo.
something? Because I can't hear.
Whenever I speak, or whenever we speak, I hear it twice.
Yep, me too.
Okay, they're saying they hear an echo.
Yeah, when you speak, Shay Brianna, I don't hear.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so what would you like to do moving forward? Do you want me to stop sharing the screen? Did it just start when I shared the screen?
It started when you shared the screen. There's two windows open. I don't know. Okay. Did that stop it?
Yes, it did.
That stopped it. Okay. I'm gonna give up on the video right now. No, we'll just have to put it in the links because
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, bottom line is this, is that the judge gave instructions to the jury as to how they were supposed to reach, their verdict. And as part of those instructions, when he began to read them, he said, for the most part, what he told them was, we know you have seen what you've seen on video, right? We know that you've seen it. We know everybody around the world has seen it. There's nothing we can do about it for the most part. But what I need you to do is I need you to make that video 1/3 of your judgment. And I need you to remember and to consider and think about what each lawyer has said here during this trial, because you can't allow your memory basically to be like the end all, your memory of the video to be the reality of the situation. And I am paraphrasing the hell out of this, but at the end of the day, it's like, yes, you saw the death of this man on video, but you have to consider everything that has been said and put before you after the fact. So, that he's basically saying, if the defense is brought in, this is the man's training, this is, what we've been doing as a community, as a policing community for the last 30 years. This is just how we do it. Whatever that is, you have to take into consideration those arguments as well. And then, you have to use all of that information in balance to make your decision. At the end of the day, that's what he was saying. And I found that incredibly interesting because I feel like that's what we should be saying to our doctors and to our nurses. Like, you just can't see sickle cell crisis and then automatically, allow your personal feelings to take over. You can't do that.
Your
You
biases
can't
and
ignore a whole chunk of information that is available to you in making your decision to care just because you don't feel like it, or because what you're envisioning in your head is more powerful, that physical interaction is more powerful than what it is that you could be reading on the page. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's horrible. It's sad that that is the immediate thought that one has as a chronically ill patient in this country. The fact that I would have to prep my physician to actually take into account my 44 years of medical history that's available to him, or at the very least, they have 33 years of it. The fact that I have to press him to take into account, there are guidelines set forth to guide you through my care. I don't need guidance. I'm an expert. I'm the patient. But since I know you're not going to listen to me, this entity that I'm hoping you would listen to has put out guidelines to help both of us. And how rarely are either of those two things really used, especially in an ER situation? And that sucks. That's absolutely horrible. Where they do that, how. And then in addition to that, the fact that even the people that are surrounded by them, by our doctors, so our nurses, our our patient partners, nurses aides, as we used to call them a very, very long time ago. You have all of these people surrounding the doctors, and again, hearing or watching them as they say, no, I'm not going to listen to you, or they nod and then walk out the room and go, whatever they said, don't worry about it, or hear them say before they even walk in the room, oh, it's a sickle cell patient, just get them out of here. And again, do nothing and say nothing. Like, why is this happening? And what can we as patients and as a patient group do about it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. What can we do about it? What are first steps to actually making the change that can actually get around the doctor's ego, that can actually get around the systems that are in place that already aren't working? They don't follow the guidelines. The systems that are in place for reporting don't actually um, reprimand or take any actual action against the doctors when they do, when there is evidence of neglect. um, so I think it starts within creating a public perception that these things are happening to force the change, because I think history has shown us that these institutions, governments, policies don't change unless they are forced to change, either through force or um, you know guilt through public perception. Um, so how do we sway the public? How do we get the public involved in such a way that we can change the tide? Because as we can see, it took, like with George Floyd, it took the world seeing what was happening to finally get this conviction. Even with Rodney King, even with all the shootings and time again, Sean King said, America had a chance with Rodney King. America had a chance with Emmett Till. And here we are with George Floyd. And, it's like a test for America's soul. What are we going to do? So I feel like, how do we get America involved? How do we or get the world involved in what is happening to sickle cell patients, not just here in America, but around the world, as we just saw with this young man in London, um, who had to call, not essentially 911 or 999 in London, on the hospital because they wouldn't give him oxygen. You know, how do we build the conversation around those kinds of things?
So personally, before we can start talking about getting the world involved, it really does fall on the patient. One part of it falls on the patient, one part of it falls on the doctors as individuals, and then the system as a whole. So my personal opinion, and my personal opinion is this, is that number one, as patients, we truly have to stop being afraid and stop, being intimidated by our doctors. And I know that's easier said than done. You're sitting in a hospital bed, your body is in pain, your mind is exhausted, and you're just trying to figure out anything that can get you the care that you need in the moment. But the fact of the matter is that the our what is our medical community's trending thought right now? I'm going to say it that way. Their trending thought in that if the patient is nice to me, then I will be nice to the patient is absolutely ridiculous, because the patient and you are not on equal footing. Bottom line.
They like to remind us as well. We're not.
Of course, they like to remind us all the time, but at the end of the day, we're not on equal footing in any way. Me as a patient, I am just that. I'm a patient. I'm walking into your job where you took an oath, where you are being paid, where you studied and gave supposedly half of your life to,
helping people.
To give half of your life to being somebody that can save lives, right? I'm coming to you to help save me. You're the person with the power. And as much as we like to talk about, everything's equal in that situation, no, it is not. The doctor is the one with the power. The doctor is the one with the backing. The doctor is the one that, makes all of the decisions. So if I come in and I don't speak, if I come in and you don't like my attitude as a doctor, well, you know what? That is pretty much all that I can do to you. All I can do to you is insult you as a doctor. Oh, words. Okay. That's all I can do. If I can even walk, if I can even bring my head up to speak to you, depending on how bad of shape I am in as a patient. And the fact that doctors will take that positioning and say, you're insulting me, should then allow me as a doctor, as the one backed by the United States government, as the one empowered to give life-saving care in the facility, that I'm going to allow that to affect in any way the way in which I'm going to care for you is ridiculous. That's number one. Number two, the patient is the expert. No, we might not be full-blown experts on sickle cell as a whole. Not saying that. Not saying anyone is, because you're barely scratching the surface of researching it. Let's just be honest. But they are an expert on the situation at hand, which is getting them better. They are an expert on them. So as a doctor, your biggest, reference, is sitting in front of you, speaking to you, telling you, these are the things that I've dealt with in the past. This is what worked in the past. And the amount of doctors that ignore patients, not just us, but patients as a whole, and that's due to their training, is ridiculous. So patients have to stand, up and say, I am the expert here. This is me. This is my body. These are my records. And then finally, as a patient, and again, I know easier said than done because of the types of relationships that we have with our doctors and with our nurses and with our hospitals. Um, it's a unique relationship. No other illness truly sees their doctors and the medical staff. And I say medical staff, I mean from the janitor to the CEO of the hospital, as much as we do over a lifetime, especially if you stay in the same hospital. So you create a life with all of these people. And due to the creation of that life that you have with these people, for me personally, I can say it has kept me from writing people up and saying, I'm going to take this to the highest level that I can. Because that doctor, I watched that doctor go from student to intern. And now, they're at the head of the department. And I've seen them in better days and in a better light. And I'm just going to allow myself to write this off as they were having a bad day. But at the end of the day, when someone starts to show you a pattern, you have to look at it. And you have to say, this is not okay. So until we begin to require ourselves to move in a different way, I don't know that we can then focus on the world moving in a different way. I don't know. Tell me what you think about that.
I mean, I personally think that you're right. I mean, it starts with ourselves. Any change that we intend to make starts with ourselves. I think that advocating for ourselves. I watched an interview today. It was with Yara Shahidi. She was talking about, how sometimes there's misrepresentation in the industry that she's in when she's an actress, and she had to walk off the set of a magazine or something like that because she was the only person of color there. And she specifically asked that, hey, I'm not the only great Black or person of color actress. All these other actresses are amazing. Just make sure you're representing everyone, that you're inclusive. And it wasn't. And she said that sometimes she has a hard time speaking up for herself, advocating for herself as a Black woman, as a person of color, because she's not fully Black. Her father is, I think, from Iran. And she says it's easier for her to advocate for politically for Black people and rights of Black people than just specifically for herself. And she says something interesting. But how can I do that to its full potential if I'm uncomfortable doing it for myself? If I cannot speak up for myself, if I cannot educate and advocate for myself, how can I do it for anyone else or the masses? So I think that, I totally agree with that because she's right and you're right. It has to start with you. It has to start with you educating yourself, empowering yourself, knowing that it's okay to be the difficult person. It's nothing wrong with feeling like I'm gonna ruffle some feathers if I say this. If it's the right thing to say it. How can we ever expect to change anything in this world if we don't first start with ourselves? And I get it, like, especially as a sickle cell patient, you may feel, oh, I shouldn't have to be the one that changed things. I shouldn't have to be the one. I'm the sick person. And no, it's not fair. But when has life ever been fair for a Black person in America? So the whole fair option is out of the window. That doesn't apply to us most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about fair, we will never get what's coming to us if we're trying to be, oh well, we're sick and we deserve to just let someone else do it for us. It's not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
before anyone else can see, oh, I need to be the person that's helping, if they have to actively see, oh my gosh, these people are doing amazing things and they're sick and they have all these issues. Wow. Now, if that does not charge someone to want to help you, it's a problem with their soul, not yours.
Well,
And that's just how
somebody said in the comments, I can't read their name, but it
Shirley
says, I
Holly.
hope this leads to belief in Black experience. This shows that the police brutality isn't made up. Sickle cell pain can't be videotaped, but there's a crack in the wall now. Liberal whites had a powerful friend in Ali, and this will help me to point out white ignorance. I don't know what the rest is.
Let me see. The rest says, let me see, I can hide it and read the rest. This will help to point out, where did it go? White ignorance, sir. Yeah.
Period.
Period.
So I disagree with that statement. Sickle cell pain can be videotaped. It can be videotaped. It can be recorded, just audio. You can write down your experience. And that's the thing, they want to tell you, oh, you can't videotape in here because of HIPAA. No. HIPAA is there to protect me, the patient, my health care, my records. If I tell you, you can bring in all the entire White House core press up in here and videotape every single thing that you do, you can. Because I, as the patient with the protected health records, am not concerned about that. No, we may not be able to take that videotape and show it as legal evidence, and I'm not even quite sure on that. I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me. But the fact of the matter is that as sickle cell patients, we are connecting, commenting, talking, critiquing each other all day, every day. 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I know I can turn this phone on and go to Facebook, and somebody is up somewhere talking about, I'm up, what you doing? So if you can do all of that with this little device that you're watching us on right now, you can use it to record care that you feel is not in any ways appropriate. Mm-hmm. Period. And I really wish that we could get the video sharing part of this app to work, because last year we had a patient that did just that. She recorded her doctor saying all kinds of craziness to her over 2 very short videos, but they were enough of him telling her that how she was an addict, how he wasn't going to write her scripts for pain medication, how he was going to put in her medical chart that she was not to be seen in the ER unless she showed signs of like an actual infection. So basically, unless you have a real fever, right? So what's a real fever? Sometimes it's 100.3 and up, sometimes it's 101. Either way, you are not to be cared for pain.
Mm-hmm.
So
he put that in her records, and this doctor is a doctor at Yale, and I have the video. The video will go in the comments so you can be linked to it. But
It's already there.
it's already there. Thank you. But the fact that this doctor did not care. I mean, it's clear the phone is up. She's recording and he does not care. And the crazy part about it is that we had several people in the community speak to this doctor, speak to Yale as a university, as a hospital. And the comments, that were sort of brushed over and received were that, well, one, the doctor had been there for so long and how respected he was. The doctor himself basically felt that what he had done was okay. Well, yeah, like there's just no sort of sense of maybe I'm wrong. Like somebody that you've never met is calling you out and saying, I saw a video one of your patients did, and then your patient put this complaint on Facebook, and there's sort of like no concern. And that was the most disheartening, upsetting thing I've ever truly dealt with. Like, I mean, I have 2.5 years of videos on Facebook and out in the ether, and people are just now beginning to realize that, I guess. But when somebody calls me or I speak to someone and they're like, oh, I saw this video of you the other day, I can't lie. Immediately, I pause for a minute because I'm like, ooh, what day did you see? what did I say that day? And it's, I can't readily say that I'm ashamed or anything like that. I'm not. I said it. But I have to say that at the very least, I do question and I'm wondering, like, what's coming forward. I'm not just like not concerned in any way. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, like whatever you're going to say, good or bad, I don't care because I am who I am and that's all that matters. No, like, no. And that's the issue I feel with the medical community as a whole, is that we train these people and we say to them, you're now doctors, and the only thing that matters is your ability to make the decision to give the care that's going to save someone's life. And you must be in charge at all times. And basically everybody in that room is going to defer to you. Well, you know what? We also then need to train them that you're not always going to be right. There's always going to be somebody that knows more than you. You should always be learning. And perhaps when you're dealing with a patient with a chronic illness that has a lifelong, the years upon decades of charts, maybe you should listen to it and not just automatically allow them to put their mistakes and their bravado and their issues onto the patient when the patient isn't the one with the power to write for care. And perhaps if more of us recorded these things happening and, I don't know, just pulled the doctor aside and said, do you see yourself? Maybe, just maybe, somebody might stop and go, ooh, that's a bad look. I'm told I'm supposed to stop cursing. You know what? The way I see it, this is my living room. Literally, my living room, and figuratively, my living room. And anybody that come into my living room, you both basically are in my house, and I'm comfortable, and I'm speaking my opinion along with my two homies who are literally in their living room, sharing my virtual living room. You don't like it in our living room, you can step. That's really how I was like, this is how I would like to see it. Guess what? I don't get to see it like that anymore. I don't, because if I want my living room to be the living room where everybody with sickle cell comes in, I got to stop cursing at the very least for the kids. You have to change your ideals at some point. I'm going to stop cursing for the kids, like Auntie Fee. I'm going to stop cursing for the kids. As a doctor, if I see myself on video and I take myself out of myself and say, that person just made a comment that they got me looking sideways. Perhaps, maybe they will just stop and try to correct that behavior.
Perhaps.
The point of the matter is that we as patients have tools available to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not willing to use them, then we can't expect anybody else to use them to come save us. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Dorian, you had a point you wanted to make real quick.
Yeah, just piggybacking off. I think Marissa, you brought up some really good points, and I think just piggybacking off of that, I think it brings me to a really good question about, because the doctors have that power, and because so oftentimes we've seen them use that power to take retribution against us when we've challenged them, when we've called out their ego, their mistreatment, their negligence, even blatantly recording them. And then they say outright on the recording, I'm going to take these actions against you because I feel XYZ, XYZ, XYZ about you. I know as a Black man, oftentimes, I think it was when I entered middle school, my parents sat me down and had a conversation with me about the police and about the necessity of just making it home safely. And then they had another conversation with me when I started driving about just getting home safely. I can't tell you how many times, growing up in the suburbs, just being a kid playing football and being in a park and having the cops called on us for being the Black kids, and having to play a part, having essentially to play chess with these cops to ensure that I was the one de-escalating situations, to ensure that I was the one making sure that as they tried to get us to say this or say that or do this, that I was disarming my friends and other people who might be becoming irate. So I would say, what do we say to the patients who say, well, I'm reluctant to do that because my doctor may take these actions against me and then I'll never get the kind of care and I may end up dead, like so many of us have ended up, dead. Where's the, no one wants to become the sacrificial lamb. No one wants to become the George Floyds. Of course not. But it's like you said, we do have, there has to be a point where we're willing to step out there somewhat to take these actions. And whether it's the people who recognize that, okay, I'm healthy enough to go toe to toe with the hospital or do whatever. But for some people, it is that I have to make it home safely. And if I have to, cater to this doctor's ego to ensure that I get home safely, then that's what I'll do. I'll play that chess game to ensure that I make it home safely. What advice can we give to patients who may feel that way, but also who want to take the necessary actions, but also are fearful of the retribution that doctors may take against them, as we've seen them do before?
Well, first of all, we all, I think, have been playing the game of make it home safely since we were booted out of PEDS.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep that 100. We've all been playing the game, just get home safely.
1,000.
But the problem is, as I see it, I'm not going to say I think and I feel, as I see it, because as a patient in this category, in my experiences, I'm the expert, right? As I see it, the problem is that we've been playing this game by ourselves or with a very, very small team,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically our immediate advocates, which for many of us are our parents or adopted parents that we have found who have just, been able to roll with us, and select family and or friends that actually get it. But it's like this, right? If your Black son called from the phone and said, I'm being pulled over by the police right now. It's midnight. I'm alone. And I'm calling you because I want somebody with me on the phone who can play witness to whatever is about to go down. I guarantee you, if he made that phone call, and let's say there was just some family gathering happening, it would go silent in that room. Not only would it go silent, but it would be like, and where are you? We coming. Where are you? Turn your phone on so we can see. Go live, shoot a bit, whatever the case may be. Do you all agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
I recently was pulled over out here in LA just last week.
So that being the case, that I say that to prove that as a community, we have a communal fear, not only for that young man in the story, right, but for all of our men, even women now. I mean, I can't even separate the women at this point for things that have happened in the past year, but just in general, though, I'm saying that is a situation that we as a community can see the clear and present danger. You, person of color, alone, pulled over by police. That's a problem.
Yeah.
We have to take that same concern and that same feeling and transfer it over to your cousin, because it's always somebody's cousin got sickle cell. I don't know why. Your cousin has called in the middle of the family event and said, I'm in the ER. I've been here for 5 hours and I can't breathe. They won't give me oxygen. They are in just as much danger as that boy that got pulled over. Period. Dot. There's no. There's no negotiating that. We as a community of sickle cell patients, we know that situation right there can go from 0 to 1,000, from alive to dead very quickly. And that person is alone.
Should we start making this a civil rights issue and involving the ACLU, involving Black Lives Matter, involving these kinds of people? And why haven't we been able to get that kind of support around these things when we've been dying left and right for decades due to neglect? That we have these shorter lifespans, not because of, yes, the illness is beating us to death, but there are no preventative measures around it. There are so many instances where there were preventable deaths that took place. You know,
putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Exactly.
Knowing that they were putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. But you'll be all right. You'd live a couple more years.
And wheeling you out the hospital door.
Well, so, I can say we tried to speak to Black Lives Matter. They don't have a healthcare coalition. I don't know if they really have any coalitions, but that's another conversation for another day. And basically, healthcare is not their thing.
Social justice is.
But see, but again, that goes back to what my scenario is, that as a community, we see the importance in regulating our police force. As a community, we're not readily seeing the importance in regulating our medical people. And let's understand this.
The other killers.
But the police are being regulated, not just because as a community we're demanding it, but because as the people that control the police are saying this is getting out of hand. And I don't really care if they're doing it so they can get reelected again. I don't really care as long as they do is getting out of hand. No one is saying, oh, doctors, you're getting out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
The people that they report to, they're not saying it. And the people that are in place supposedly to protect us, the patients, do not necessarily give the full power of their institutions behind the patient. And I'm going to leave it at that. But most importantly, and this is where our doctors are come into play, and to every doctor that gets this after we're done, it really is about them. Truly, it is. It is about them. And whether or not they're willing to say to somebody, you're wrong, or whether or not they're willing to have enough, self-observation and say, how I did that was wrong. I'm going to change next time. I'm going to do something different next time. And to that nurse that looks at the doctor and says, that's not what the chart said. That's not what the patient told you. You are wrong. Because being a doctor, just like being a police officer, is an aspirational situation. We don't think of that way now because police officers don't make nearly as much money as doctors do, right? Because we are a materialistic kind of capitalistic society. But when you really go back, being a police officer, like, those are toys that we give children to dress up as police officers, firemen, FBI agent badges, like, to protect and serve. It's aspirational. I want to grow up and I want to meet, all of the physical needs, and I want to pass all the tests that are going to allow me to carry a gun and go out and save people. Being a doctor is supposed to be aspirational. You have this amazing brain, you have this want to take care of people. You're going to study really hard. You're going to pass all your tests. You're going to pass your tests so you can be properly licensed, so you can actually practice, right? You're going to work hard and you're going to save people, something that you take pride in doing. So therefore, when you see somebody acting out of character as to what is supposed to be your aspirational way of life, because I dated a cop. I had to spend 3 days at his house to see him for half a day. That's how much of his life he spent being in his job. Our doctors, how much time do they spend at the hospital in comparison to being home? This is your lifestyle. This is what you live, breathe, eat. This is what you do. And if you see somebody that's supposed to be doing what you're doing, not upholding the standards that you truly bought into when you decided to start down this path, then you should have enough courage and moral decency to say you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel it's that simple. So I'm gonna wait for the backlash, and I'm okay with it.
Well, medicine still has, I don't even know if they've still apologized for Tuskegee yet. I mean, there's so much ego involved in the medical industry, just like there is in the political world, just like the government still hasn't apologized. The American government still has not apologized for slavery. Like, if that just goes to show you the culture that kind of exists in this country around just being able to say, I was wrong, and making a change. It's few and far between. Again, unless they are forced out of political pressure, I think we've been shown time and time again they will sweep it under the rug. So it's time to pull back the curtain, and like you've said, stop sweeping it under the rug, and do as much as we can to really start championing our community, the sickle cell community, to start championing our family, friends, and the rest of the community to take up this cause on our behalf. Like you said, transferring our pain, our anger, our angst around these things, and giving that fight over to our cousins, to our neighbors, to our families, to our friends, so that we can start to truly grow this cause around the political issue that it actually is, the civil rights issue that it actually is, as well as the health crisis and medical crisis that it actually is.
Truly.
Yeah.
And I will say this, medical students out there, students that want to be medical students, doctors that do get it, that are out here sort of, fighting for sickle cell, um, you have to also begin to demand that you learn more about it in school. Sickle cell is an incredibly interesting, complicated illness. When people tell me things like, oh, I went to cancer because I wanted to study something complicated, I laugh. Like, you wanted a challenge, so you wanted a cancer. Oh, I got a whole bunch of challenges for you right here. Right here.
Yeah.
It's called sickle cell. Let's learn. And by the time I'm done in my little 20-minute, whatever it is that I'm talking about, they're like, wow, no one told me. I wasn't exposed. I had no idea. And I find that doctors who are out here now, who have discovered, the greatness that are sickle cell patients, because I feel we are rather spectacular, just saying, and see the injustices and really the good that could come out of fixing our system and educating their colleagues more on sickle cell and providing better care for their patients, seeing the promise that really is sickle cell. Because researchers are seeing the promise that is sickle cell. We know that for a fact. The amount of treatments we have in the pipeline, the amount of studies that they're doing, the excitement they have when we meet them, they know the promise in sickle cell. But to have the people that treat us see the promise in it, those of you who get it, you have to begin to demand that your alma mater starts teaching more and doing better.
Like mine is.
It's a constant thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that we made some amazing points, and I think that all the things that we've said has been extremely valid. I thank all of you who commented and shared views or how you felt about what we were talking about. I thank both of you for being here with me. I think it's about time to end this though. So yeah, I don't know. Are you doing the after show today, Marissa, or no?
I can't hear.
I was asking you, are you doing an after show today?
I'm happy to do an after show. If people want to continue to talk about it, sure. Doreen, would you like to continue to talk about it? We would have to go live, though.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Continuing to talk about it.
Okay. Well, y'all meet Marissa at her Facebook in about 5-10 minutes. I don't know. Is that enough time? You need more time?
Yeah. I think you said 5 or 10 minutes. Did you say 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to, whatever, how we gonna work this out. But thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this discussion today. We surely appreciate you. As always, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Oh, hi. I can't hear. So if you see me with my head tilted like this the whole show, it's because I can't hear. I'm sorry. Leave people and places better than you found them, and you will find that you're a better person. Meet us in 10 minutes.
Be empowered, stay encouraged, and know that your breakdowns can soon become breakthroughs.
All right, guys. Until
Love
next,
it.
and share this live, please, so everyone else can see it. Thank you. Bye.